Hello everyone. I am Shilpa Sharma, lecturer HR department, CIMAGE College, Patna. If you have watched my previous video, I have been talking about communication. I have talked about two-way communication. I have talked about what communication is. I have talked about the formal channel of communication. In this video, I'm going to talk about informal channel of communication or the grapevine communication. What better way to start introduction about grapevine communication than to say that it is just between you and me, and then it gets transferred throughout the organization. This exactly is grapevine means of communication. Grapevine communication is an informal channel of communication across the organization, which is an outcome of spontaneous feeling. This communication cuts across the hierarchy of the organization, irrespective of which position of the organization it is. It will be transferred from one person to other. If we say, or if we try to define grapevine communication in the words of Keith Davis, we see that he has defined grapevine as a product of situation that it is, rather than as a person. So Keith Davis says that grapevine is more a product of situation than it is of the person. There are some favorite topics which are more common when we talk about grapevine communication. For example, if somebody has been laid off, if there are takeovers in the organization, if there are promotions in the organization, if there are cases of organizational restructuring, if there is an introduction of a new technology in the organization. These things, they get transferred in grapevine faster than the formal means of communication. Now, one troublesome part about grapevine communication is that sometimes everything that you hear in grapevine is not true. It might carry rumors. While if we discuss the advantage of grapevine communication, see, for once we should understand that grapevine communication is inevitable because employees are anyway going to meet in library, in canteen, or whoever sits next to you kind of. So grapevine is inevitable. But we should understand that not everything that gets transferred in grapevine is true. This is one disadvantageous thing about grapevine communication. But if we ask ourselves, or if we or as the researchers have researched it, why does grapevine communication emerge? Because there are already formal means of communication, which is more authentic. There is also a doubt in authenticity of grapevine communication, because of which we cannot use the same information as a future reference. The primary reason that we see is why grapevine communication emerges. It's all about the emotions of employees. See, there are topics like if there is undermining of a subordinate by his superior, if there is an insecurity of service, and likewise many other things. There is bottling up of emotions, and this bottling up needs a vent, which is not possible in formal means of communication. This is exactly from where stems out grapevine communication. It is grapevine that allows people to speak up their mind, to speak up their emotions. And different theories have proved this, that there is socio-psychological need of humans that need to be fulfilled at the workplace. Grapevine fairly does so. You have a sense of belongingness, you have a sense of group identity when you do grapevine communication. Now, grapevine also has various ways in which it starts getting transferred. For example, if we talk about single strand grapevine, what happens is that here suppose A is a person, A transfers it to B transfers it to C does it to E, C does it to D, and likewise it gets transferred. So there is one person who will transfer it to the next person, and then that next person will transfer it to his next person. But if we talk about probability kind in grapevine communication, we see that the getting transferred of message depends upon the probability whom you will meet in the organization. Suppose you meet E first. There are likely chances, there are more probability of you to transfer the message to E first and then to someone else. There is another interesting way of grapevine transfer of message, which is cluster. Now, cluster is the most trusted kind of grapevine communication, because this happens in the chosen few, a chosen set of friends or colleagues whom you trust at your workplace. So what happens, that it happens between a close knit of friends or a close knit of colleagues. Now you'll transfer it to the one whom you trust, and you will say that it's between you and me. But to whoever you have transferred that, he or she will retain a part of communication, the information, and then they will transfer it to some other person. This is how cluster means of grapevine communication works. Now, as I have told you that despite formal means of communication and despite several advantages that are there for formal channel of communication, grapevine communication is inevitable. It's a must at workplace. But also, taking into the disadvantages, for example, it might create, this grapevine communication might disseminate a wrong information about the employer, the management, and then there can be a hostile relationship between the management and the employees. So this is one of the major disadvantages of grapevine communication. However, not always it carries wrong information. There is some truth in that also. Just as we say that a rumor is always half true. And also, since it satisfied the socio-psychological need of human, that we also see something as very important in Abraham Maslow's need hierarchy theory. So this grapevine cannot be neglected completely. So thank you so much.